Warzone's casual mode has gotten bigger than Call of Duty ever expected, but the question is whether or not it's doomed to eventually fail. Today we dive deep into the reality of casuals to learn some of its darkest secrets. Warzone Casuals continues to be a very hot topic within the community because there's a lot of people that feel one way or another. It could be whether or not people think that sweats are ruining the mode. It could be people saying that they think that it's actually messing with the brain of the player who only plays casuals before they hop into a match of regulars with another friend. And there's a lot of these secrets and dark truths behind the mode, so I wanted to take a look at a video by someone who is incredibly intelligent, Drifter. And while he may be intelligent, I do think there may be some things in this that I don't necessarily agree with, and we actually are going to dive a little deeper into the comment section of his videos because there were a lot of people that gave him a lot, and I mean a lot, of information as well as pushback on what he had to say. So off rip, we are going to be diving straight into this. Of course, the link is in the description down below if you want to watch it by yourself or leave a comment on his video, but let's go ahead and dive in.
Hey guys, Drifter here. I've been feeling a lot better lately and I've had a lot more energy to go out and do more things. And I've been putting
by the way,
some of that extra energy into playing Warzone more regularly because the original Warzone, Call of Duty Verdansk in 2020, was one of my favorite Call of Duty experiences of the last decade.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us hold it near and dear, and I think the next thing I'll say is that a lot of us look at Verdansk with rose-tinted glasses because of the time that we were in. Everybody was home for COVID. Everybody got to play with their boys, their squad, even some girls. I'm not trying to hold you back here. But my point is that while Verdansk was fun, it is a great map, and the basics of how it was built, incredible, truly remarkable. But I think there's some things that we tend to forget. The number of glitches that were in the game, the fact that hackers were at an all-time high during Verdansk, even though some people believe that Ricochet doesn't work now, trust me, it literally didn't exist back then. So cheaters just ran free willy, you know. That didn't make any sense, but you get what I'm trying to say. So while a lot of people hold that near and dear to their hearts, it's more about the time that they spent with their friends than it is about the state of the game. But I will note, back then, everybody had no idea what they were doing, so it did mean that the lobbies were a lot less sweaty. And I think that's part of why casual mode exists in the first place, but let's keep going. Hey there, Editor Expel here. First of all, if you haven't already, just hit the damn subscribe button on the channel. All right, stop wasting time with it. Anyway, back to the video.
It was, for me at least, a lot more interesting than regular multiplayer, so I was really excited to kind of try to get back into the swing of things, to kind of pick up where I left off, hop right back in, and have a good time with Verdansk. But Verdansk just isn't quite the same as it used to be. Much in the way that you can't put the genie back in the bottle or close Pandora's box, the community can't unlearn the modern aggressive tactics that streamers like myself have employed for a very long time.
I think that's incredibly accurate. I think that is one of the most correct things I've heard come out of a content creator's mouth whenever it comes to Call of Duty itself. And it's something that a lot of people just constantly forget. This game and every other game on the planet will always be better when it first comes out because people will have not learned it. There's going to be like 100 dudes that have spent every hour of every day playing it. But think about this. Back when Warzone first launched, before it broke past Verdansk and moved into the Caldera map, this game hit 100 million downloads. 1/10 of a billion people. That is a percentage of the population of the world. 100 million people had downloaded this game, and it had an active player base of like tens of millions of players across all of its platforms. So there were a lot of people and a lot of opportunities for skill-based matchmaking to do what it does best and put people into the category that they were supposed to be in. But Warzone has if you don't know, had to loosen its matchmaking, which makes it where lower skilled players will often run into higher skilled players, because when you're trying to fill a lobby with 150 players, sometimes you have to break that. In fact, this is kind of crazy, but my kill death ratio is so high that if I hop on, it always takes 5 minutes for me to get a match. I have a 6 ED ratio in Call of Duty Warzone, which is an elimination death ratio. And it will always take me about 5 minutes. It'll go from like 20 ping all the way up to 100, and then it'll reset because my skill bracket is so high that it cannot find 150 players. So it kind of has to pull what players it can and then fill the rest with whatever. And that's just how it works. It doesn't want to hold you that long. Now, mind you, I don't use a VPN. I don't use two boxing or anything to affect matchmaking in any sort of capacity. I just exist. I click the play button. That's it. That's all I do. I do the exact same thing as everybody else. That's all I do. So when you think about that and you recognize that back then it was very different. Everybody had that opportunity to play however they needed to, whether that was, you know, camping their asses off, which is absolutely a valid play style, hiding in a bush, sniping from the top of ATC, whatever it may be, they were able to do it back then. But now, not so much. The player base, while still very large, we average probably, and I need to do a whole video on this, but there was new information that came out about the accurate numbers that are the player base of Call of Duty. And it turns out that PC is about 33%. Battle.net is, or not Battle.net, sorry, PlayStation is about 33%, and Xbox is now 33%. All of those are a third of the population, realistically. And we'll get into it a little bit more, but we learned that Steam numbers dive at about 2 times the rate, if not more than that, than every other platform. So there's actually quite a few players online right now. There's probably at any given moment around 4 million players playing Call of Duty. Now, don't get me wrong, there's going to be people that say, no, it's this number, no, it's this number. But there's newer information that came out that we actually just got that is reliable, which is incredible. So we know that there's a lot of players, but that's across all of Call of Duty, including multiplayer, including any other game within the launcher. So Warzone can't fill that properly. So it does that. But my point is, with saying all of this, that it is not ever going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle, because one, it was all made by Infinity Ward, right? So we all had Infinity Ward weapons. It was set up with everything that was Modern Warfare 2019. Now we have Black Ops, we have Modern Warfare 3, we have Modern Warfare 2, we have all of that within the games. We've got 3 games in one game that they're trying to smush all together, and it's just so far advanced that we're never going to get there. So many people have had the opportunity to play the game longer, and they've learned. Some people naturally learn, like myself. It's not about me sitting here trying to sweat my ass off. It's that's just the way my brain works, is the more that I play it, and yes, I play it a lot, I will naturally get better because that's how my brain works. So there's a lot of people that do exactly that, and there's no way that you can get worse. You can play worse. A lot of people talk about this whenever I do my Undercover Noob series. Expel, you suck at sucking. And I get that. I get that. There's so many people that are like that and will never be able to reach that moment ever again.
And gameplay may be mostly the same, but the players have evolved. I noticed in my games that almost everyone is playing much more aggressively than they used to. There's a lot of trophy system on vehicle pushes, helicopter uses, UAVs going off all the time. Everybody's fighting over contracts and trying to finish them quickly to get their loadouts. Teams are very fast about finishing their downs, and the mode feels very sweaty. And I thought it was just time at play here, and it is to some extent because I've been out of it for a bit. But I actually think that Warzone Casual mode made this problem much worse. So today we're going to talk all about Warzone's casual.
That's interesting. I'm curious where he leads with this, because saying that casual mode made the game less casual feels bass-ackward. So what does that mean?
Problem. But before we get into that, I wanted to give a quick shout out to my sponsor, Logitech G. The A50X is
hey man,
by
I love
far
you, dude. I'm not watching that shit. I love you, man. It ain't happening.
A regular Battle Royale experience, but with 120 fairly easy bots on the map and only 28 real players. You get access to the full map, full loadouts, full everything that normal mode has. It's just that the competition is significantly easier until the final few circles when it's mostly people then. Initially, it seemed like this was a good idea. The casual...
Okay, pause. Real quick. I do want to take note of something because this is something that I hear a lot. Streamers, good players, sweaty players, whatever you want to call them, I genuinely do. It does not matter to me. I know that there's a lot of people that hate that streamers exist. Whether it be from jealousy, which I'm not saying is the case in any capacity. I hate streamers for the most part. I think a lot of people have massive egos and they think they're better than everyone else. And I'm not a fan of that up front. I think that's incredibly gross. I hate that there's anyone out there that because they play a video game for a living think that they're better than anyone else. My man, you're good at a video game. Calm down. But there's a lot of people that hate the idea that people have gotten good at this game, right? The issue that I have is that skill is not something that makes something unfair. Just because someone is better than you at something because they've put time into it doesn't mean that necessarily you're at an unfair advantage. Now, if you were like playing for money or you were in a proper competition or something like that and they didn't bracket you in a specific way, that absolutely makes sense. So if you're hopping into ranked and every game that you hop in while you're a bronze, you're fighting, I don't know, Aiden or something like that, then absolutely that makes sense. You should not be getting thrown into games like that. But if you're playing whatever mode that allows everybody to be in it at whatever capacity, I don't think it makes sense to fuss about stuff like this. But I know that there's a lot of people that hop into casual mode and they're like, oh, the other teams are good. I'm like 99% sure there's no skill-based matchmaking in this mode. So if you and your squad, you have 4 players on your team, there's 28 players total that are real. That means there's 24 other players that are real and 128 bots or 124 bots, one or the other. There's that many bot players that constantly respawn and just show up near you. If you're getting upset that you're having to fight whatever amount of real players, stop playing Call of Duty altogether. Because in reality, if you were going to lose, you were going to lose anyway. It makes no sense to get upset that someone is hopping into a mode and playing however they want whenever Call of Duty hasn't added those barriers. And if you want those barriers, that's fine. But my point is that they've chosen not to because they want the mode to be for everyone. And everybody has an opportunity because it's a no skill-based matchmaking with 124, 128 bots and 24 other real players. If you were going to lose, you were going to lose anyway. So there's no reason to be upset. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't annoying whenever you hop into casual and you're getting absolutely slammed just like you would in the main map, but you also have 124 opportunities for an absolutely free kill, which I don't even know what the goal is. If like, what is the point basically? Wait, like, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but what is the point whenever you hop into casuals? It doesn't really make sense to me when people get upset that they die in general. It's like, you're going to die. It's a game, dude. It's all right. Just boot up again. There's no reason to get upset. I know a lot of people get upset about video games. I hear you. But there's just no reason for it, realistically.
Dual mode lets players have a place to experiment and learn the ropes of the game. It's also a great mode to go to test out loadouts in a live environment if the firing range just isn't doing it for you. It's fun for people to play that are just super casual and don't have an interest in getting much better. And this
that is an incredible point. Don't have an interest in getting much better. That is absolutely correct. I recently played in my undercover video yesterday. I recently played with some people that main casual mode. And the issue with casual mode is that you hop in and you don't learn anything. It's a big fat sandbox, right? You run around in vehicles and you just run people over because all you're doing is just killing bots. They literally run around like chickens with their heads cut off because they have no idea what they're doing. But the bots are not smart. Regardless of what what people say, yes, they will get a little bit better. I'm not trying to take away from that. But the bots are not smart in like a human sense and understanding things. The issue with the bots is that they literally see you through the wall because they're programmed to know where the player is, not to visually see the player. So if you're within a specific vicinity, they will just go to you and start shooting you, right? But you don't learn any real battle royale skills by playing a mode that is only built to keep you alive, right? It's just there so that you can get to the end and get that dopamine hit that people crave whenever they play battle royale. Or just sit and be incredibly casual and just talk to your boys. Just, you know, swipe shorts or something like that. So you don't learn anything unless you're hopping in a battle royale for the first time. The only thing that I would say that you learn is basically the basics, right? The way that kill streaks work, the way that buy stations work, the way that contracts work, and the way that loadouts work. You do not learn any proper, like, get a win skill. You only learn the basics in this mode. So if you want to get skills to win more, you have to hop in and play real battle royale, not casuals. And I'll probably have a whole video discussing this because I think it's very important that if you want to get better, you cannot just play casuals. Casual is just built to be casual. It is a big fat sandbox, and you get to the end and then you fight real players. And this is one of those harsh truths that I know a lot of people don't want to hear, but you do not get properly better unless you're actively going out of your way to get better. Unless you go in and you're like, how do I make this rotation? Because you have the opportunity to do so, but 99% of people just aren't going to do it. And it's just because you don't hop into casuals for that reason. Unless you're actively focusing on that, it's never going to happen.
This is the mode for dads that have full-time jobs. Warzone Casuals is for grad students who just don't have time to keep up with the meta but still want to get some games in. And there's a lot to like about this mode, which is why I initially praised it upon launch, but I did not foresee the impact that casual mode would have on regular Warzone. The main problem here is that the mode ultimately segmented the player base by skill level. Now 100% of the casual players only play casual mode, which means the more competitive players and the ranked grinders are the only ones left in normals right now. Ranked helps.
I don't think saying 100% makes sense. Realistically, I think that trying to say 100% is kind of goofy, actually, because one, I play this game all the time, and I will often run into a player that is not as good as the other players. There are people that are always a step above, but even people that play casually are going to want to scratch that competitive itch that they get every once in a while. So you're not going to, with 4 million players online, assuming free-to-play wise, probably 2 million of those, let's call half, plays Warzone. That's probably way off, just to be clear. This is just random numbers. Let's just throw out random numbers, just to be clear. Let's assume 4 million, half are playing Warzone, and let's say casuals make up about 80% of the player base, right? 80, 85. So 80, 85% is casuals. You're probably at any given moment going to have about 60% of those focused on casual mode. And then I would say the rest of the 40 of that 85% is going to be playing regular mode because they probably play with a friend that wants to play regular mode, or they hop in and they just want to scratch that competitive itch and see what they really got, something like that. Realistically, to say that it's 100% and it's getting segmented like that, for Drifter, I would say is a little goofy. This guy 100% knows better than that, and he's probably just throwing out numbers, just to be clear. So don't, like, I am doing it so you don't. I would not hold that super hard against him. I understand segmenting players off, and I get that, and they've always tried to not do that. But also, people want that feel good at the end of the game mentality. Like you get that rush that you get from Battle Royale, and sure, like people like me that play super competitively, we're not gonna get that rush. I like literally playing casual, I feel nothing. I feel absolutely nothing, and that's because I mentally know that I'm not trying the same way that I would in a battle royale, like regular match. Literally, I can run around and eliminate every player in the game unless I see a 4-stack squad of players that are literally all shooting at me. I will eliminate all the bots. I'll eliminate most of the regular players, and I don't want to do that, so I don't even want to play that mode because I don't like. This sounds terrible to say, but I don't like reaching down and like slapping people below me. It just feels goofy, right? That's the same reason I don't like 2box, and the same reason I don't like VPNing. I think it's incredibly goofy to try and reach down just so that I feel better. I've never felt better by beating down on someone. It just doesn't feel right. But I think there are people that like to try and reach up. And those people absolutely should, and they will. They absolutely will. So again, on Drifter, he knows he's wrong in that. There's no way that he would watch this back and be like, yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? I think he just said it when he said it.
Segment that too, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the video. But for now, we're just focusing on normal, unranked Verdansk experience. The only players left in normals are going to be significantly more competitive than they were in the past, and honestly, even more competitive than they were in the immediate past in the last iteration of Warzone before Verdansk came out. The end result is that normal Warzone just got noticeably more competitive. So to me, normals feels a lot like hard mode. That means if I want to have a casual experience, I have to do so in casual mode and mostly fight bots. I can't have a normal or casual experience without the bots. I can't have that experience with real people.
All right, realistically, it doesn't have to do with casual mode. Like, if you're going to say something like that, that doesn't come down to casual mode. That comes down to skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking trying its best to be incredibly strict because they recognize the casual mode does well, because casual players, for the most part, do not want to have to try. They do not want to have to think. And we'll talk about this when we read the comments later. But these people hop on, and these people are not you and me. 99% of the people watching this video, you and I, we're not casuals. If you're watching a YouTube video, trust me, most of these guys that are actually casual are not hopping on and watching a YouTube video, some random dude that's sitting here talking shit. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? They hop on and they genuinely don't care. They're not thinking, they're just gaming. They barely like know what they're doing. So they're just hopping on, having a conversation with their friends and stuff like that. That is casual. Drifter is not playing casual no matter how casual he's playing, because his casual is 10 steps above everybody else's casual, which sucks because he just wants to play casually and his casual is just better. And people get upset that he's playing casually, but his casual, again, is just always going to be better. It sucks from everybody's point of view, but it's because of skill-based matchmaking. And people don't understand skill-based matchmaking. It's a lot more complicated than you think. I'm not going to go into detail here, but long story short, skill-based matchmaking does not work the way you think it does. It is there only to get you to buy bundles and things like that. But it has a massively negative effect on the top 10 to 20% of players because of the way that it takes forever to get you in a match. Like I said, it takes me about 5 minutes. So it takes me forever to play a single solos match. My ping is usually higher because it puts that to the side so that it can make sure it gets better players and stuff like that. And while he may think that 100% of the player base is playing this, and I, again, don't think that he actually thinks that, that's not the case. He just doesn't see them as often because the weighting of the player base is a little different. Yes, it's going to be a little sweatier, but I promise you, playing Resurgence was way sweatier than what I play in Verdansk. Verdansk is so much more casual no matter what mode I'm playing. Just to be very clear, I think he just didn't play it that much. He didn't get the opportunity to play as much as somebody like me, who you can figure out. And I'm not trying to say that he's completely wrong or anything like that. Like, your feelings are valid. I'm not trying to take away from those feelings. But I do want to be clear, as someone that plays this about 8 hours a day, I get the opportunity to see different levels of lobbies as I play. And I can kind of think about how difficult it was over the course of Resurgence versus what we're doing now. It's very clear, even with the player base being segmented into these modes, that there's still more casual players playing this than there were in Resurgence, just to be very clear.
Anymore. And this is
it is much harder than it was in old school Verdansk. I'll put that out there, offer it. It was much easier in the original Verdansk than it is now.
Sticky point for me personally, because I do not enjoy killing bots at all. We talked about this in the Marathon video and in the Arc Raiders video, in my old Destiny video. And even if you want to go all the way back in time to my original Titanfall 1 review, I was very adamant that the game would be better off without the AI bots on the ground, but Microsoft just had a huge fixation with their cloud servers and letting the AI be run by cloud, but whatever, anyway.
All right, here's a harsh truth that people don't want to hear, okay? Everybody wants to feel good at the game, no matter how bad they are. Everybody. It's the whole reason that cheaters exist. Cheaters exist for the pure fact that everybody believes that they're better than everybody else, no matter what your skill level is. There's probably like 5% that like genuinely don't give a shit, right? But everybody hops on And they think that if anybody's better than them, then they have to be cheating. It's not something we want to admit, but it is the truth. Everybody feels that way. And it takes a lot to really break past that, be a little bit more self-aware, and put some humility on, like figure out that, you know what, maybe I'm just dog shit. Like that's the reality of it. Everybody wants to feel like they're doing better. Because they put their best in, they believe that no one could have beat their best. And it's just a mindset thing. It's how it's always been whenever it comes to competition or any kind of competitive nature thing. And with there being such easy ways to cheat in Call of Duty, it's easy to be like, all right, well, he was better, he's got to be cheating. I don't know how to do that. He got to be cheating because I can't figure it out, right? Stuff like that exists. I get so many cheating accusations, and I am not that great compared to a lot of these guys that play professionally. I get constant. It is hundreds. There's a whole channel dedicated to just talking shit about me and saying I'm cheating. I don't cheat in any capacity, and people believe that because they don't fathom how I'm able to make the decisions that I make in a game. And I can explain every single one. I'll always be able to, because I recognize what happens in the moment. As long as I have the exact same information as what was happening in the moment, I can tell you exactly why I did what I did. That's just how it works. And I will always be able to do that. But a lot of people can't. So cheaters exist because everybody wants to feel good about themselves, right? Everybody wants to have that. It's the same reason that it comes to these modes, and people want to feel, competitive. But bots are added in because it makes people feel just a little bit better about themselves, because at least they can beat the bots. And it's not like I'm talking shit in any capacity. This is just one of those things that we have to accept as reality, because that's how people work. That's how we are. And I've heard it time and time again. I just had a conversation with a rage hacker that, man, all of this stuff becomes very clear the more that you get into it. And I try my best to communicate these things, but what's going to happen is that you're going to go into the comments of this video and you're going to see a lot of people that are saying, no, you're wrong about this. 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 But I live and breathe this. Like, I actively do my best to listen to my audience and pay attention to what they say and compare it to in-game experiences, compare it to other people and stuff like that. And this is the conclusion that I've come to over the course of 5 years of doing this professionally, like doing this as a job. And it's just that everybody wants to feel good about themselves, regardless of whether or not they are or aren't. There's always a way to get better. For me, I can get better. I've learned the ins and outs of this game, but what I would have to do to get better is play against players that are better than me in a competitive place. That's where I'm at. My way to get better would be to literally play and be coached by a professional player. For a lot of y'all, you could play and, get coached by me and get way better. A lot of people watch my videos just for that, but people don't want to accept that truth. And I respect the hell out of the people that can be self-aware enough to do that. And I think that Drifter really falls into this weird category where he thinks that bots are bad. And I do agree that bots, for the sake of player mentality, are technically bad. But for the sake of player retention, do the exact opposite of what he may actually be thinking here.
Titanfall 1 was the game where they first normalized having AI players on the battlefield. And my opinion about not liking that hasn't changed very much since then. At the end of the day, I get absolutely zero satisfaction out of killing the AI. It just doesn't do it for me. And I don't even know what...
Yeah, absolutely. 100,000%. As somebody that is a cut above whenever it comes to skill level, I feel the exact same way, but I can still take the opportunity to recognize why it exists and why I think it's actually a positive impact on the game overall. Because eventually some of these players will start feeling the exact same. The more you play casual, either you're going to fall off the game entirely, or you're going to slowly want to get a little bit more competitive. And because of the way that skill-based matchmaking and the bots work in this game, you will not ever feel that much more competitive playing within casual mode. So I think eventually you'll get to the point to where you want to play regular, and you're going to get absolutely pissed on, like I said earlier, because you're not actually learning anything in casual mode. So you're going to have to slowly learn more things. And that's when you're going to start getting into the YouTube side of things. You're going to start learning things from people that know how to explain it to you. And I think that that's a positive impact that we can have with the casual mode. And like, you have to recognize the opportunity that comes from having a casual mode that gets people interested in the first place to where maybe they want to improve as well. That's where my brain goes whenever it comes to this game, is that keeping the population of the game alive is more important than whether or not you think bots are good.
What's wrong with me? Because everybody else seems to enjoy this. Everybody else seems very content to load into a game and kill bots that don't really fight back. I just don't think that's the kind of power fantasy that I was looking for in a Call of Duty game.
I think it comes down to thinking about things like campaign experiences. You know, like the Warzone is a big story. If you think about it, it's all about like telling the story of how you got from the beginning to the end. And people feel the exact same way about the campaign. There's so many people that'll hop into a campaign and not listen to any of the dialogue. They don't give a shit. They just want to play the game and get through it. And you kill bots the whole time. That's all you're doing, is just shooting AI. So I don't know why there would be a big difference mentally between this and playing a campaign. I guess if you can't recognize the story or whatever, that's fine. But a lot of people play the campaign and decide whether or not it's good based on just the gameplay experience, not even paying attention to the story. I think that's fine. I don't see an issue with it.
On this topic, I also struggle with a significant number of single-player games because they don't feel adequately challenging. And by that, I don't mean unreasonable scenarios where the enemy's health scales way up and your damage scales way down, or where you have to use the fire-type Pokemon on the grass type, or when they throw an unreasonable amount of enemies, like hundreds or thousands of enemies my way for me to slaughter, or a boss that's like a titan with all these superpowers or whatever. For whatever reason, I don't like that. I might have liked that when I
this sounds kind of like a drifter problem, not a game problem.
was a kid. There's nothing wrong with single player games. They can be fun sometimes. But the moment I got online and started interacting with real people, the satisfaction of killing bots just completely disappeared. I only had interest in hunting humans. I like to hunt down human enemy opponents of varying skill levels and intelligences that
What is wrong with this video
are
right now?
doing their best job to try to stay alive. For some reason, interacting with other people and hunting real people is always more fun for me, even if I'm not particularly good at it. And I gotta be real, I'm not particularly good at games anymore, but I would rather
What is going on with this video? Hello? Are we good?
lose 10 times
Hello? What is happening?
in a row and then finally kill a real person than I would kill 10 bots and then kill one person or die to a person even.
I can absolutely respect feeling that way. I just don't think that saying that the game is ruined because of this makes any sense. I think that your experience has been ruined by your own thought process and your own feelings about it. It has nothing to do with whether or not the game itself is ruined, because in fact, I think it's doing the exact opposite. I think actually it's making it better, but I do think it does hurt the mentality of the players that only play this and are not willing to reach above and strive for a little bit more greatness. I think some people need to be able to be humbled by being dog shit at the game. And I think that the Drifter has the ability to be humbled. I just think he's lost in this thought process that everyone feels similar, when in reality, most people don't even have self-awareness. Like, even honestly, I have conversations every single day where people will literally point fingers at me and be like, you're doing this. And it's like, bro, you just did the exact same thing. Are you kidding? You can't even recognize what you just did. You said the same thing. Like, some guy the other day called me a hypocrite for something that I didn't even do. Like, hands off, did not even do. It had nothing to do with me. And I was like, bro, what? Why? Don't be a weirdo by discounting someone's experience. And for the rest of the conversation, he was like, you called me a name, you called me a name. And I'm like, bro, you called me a hypocrite, and then followed it up by calling me a narcissist, and then you followed it up by calling me this. And it was like, bro, how do you not have enough self-awareness to recognize that you were doing the exact same thing that you're upset that I did when I just called you a weirdo for acting a certain way? I didn't even do the thing you said that I did. I didn't say anything to you. So there's a lot of people. And this is one thing that I really hate about being on social media, is that it's one of those things where you get to see at mass how people can really be. And it makes it difficult. My thing that I've learned is that I really have to try my best to recognize that there is a person behind the screen. there's a person behind the screen. There is a person living a full life behind this screen. And that is the only way that I can continue to be positive about things, because I got to recognize that this dude's just behind a screen. It is what it is. Don't worry about it, because a lot of these guys, they just like, they can't recognize what's going on right in front of them because they're not self-aware enough to realize what they're doing, how they're living their life and stuff like that. And it's made it's difficult sometimes to look at stuff like this. I've had to step back from reading comments in the past. I've had to step back from social media in the past because it gets difficult to interact with certain people because of things like this. So because of that, it's led me to be more aware of how people are in reality and learn more and more and more. And I actually love learning, and it makes it easier on me to be more easygoing, not to be so pessimistic, not to kind of be as much of an asshole. Because I promise, if you look at some of the stuff that I've done in the past, particularly back in Blackout, my first experience with social media was so negative. Like going full time in social media was so negative that I just got depressed. I became a total asshole, and I've had a great opportunity to learn from that. And I definitely think I've become a much better human, but a lot of people just don't do that. A lot of people don't give a shit to do that. There's a lot of people that just don't give a shit in general. And I think that that's one thing that maybe Drifter might be forgetting, is a lot of people just don't care. They just don't care. There's no care whatsoever in this.
Killing the bots is less satisfying for me than just dying a bunch of times to real people. And I'm in a real pickle here because I'm clearly not good enough for normal mode anymore now that the casuals have been pulled out of it. It's almost like the community is doing skill-based matchmaking, but on a voluntary basis. Or maybe it's a more community-friendly skill-based matchmaking problem, because all of the normal and lower skilled players are now in casual mode, which I personally, as we discussed, don't find to be very fun. All of the players on the higher end of the skill level of normal and up to all the way to being very competitive, are in regular mode practicing for ranked, or they're already in ranked, just hyper sweating and grinding and doing their thing. So to compare to skill-based,
you know, there's one thing that I've learned because of casual mode. It's that no matter what, everybody's gonna bitch. It is actually super funny, right? Because good players have to fight good players all the time. And they bitch about fighting good players all the time. And then bad players barely ever fight good players. Like, you will, if you are a bad player, because of the way that skill-based matchmaking works, you will run into a good player 1 to 2% of the time. They're like a really good player. Just to be clear, I'm talking like a top 1% player. You're still going to lose to players that are slightly better than you or do better than you within the match, right? I'm not trying to take away from that. What I'm trying to say is you will run into people that are top 1, top 2%, very rarely compared to players that are top 1 to top 2%. It still happens because you have to fill a lobby. You are the guy that's got to fill the lobby. I'm sorry, like I said earlier. But I find it very funny because those players will bitch because they have to fight people 1 to 2% of the time. So at the end of the day, everybody's going to bitch no matter what. Like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't make sense to me that people are mad that they're fighting 24 other players, and one squad of those 24 players, 4 players of 150 are decent. And because they run into players that are playing like that, they bitch. And it's like, I'm tired of losing to these guys that are good at the game. It's like, everybody's going to bitch no matter what. So I don't even see the point of having skill-based matchmaking in the game right now, because we actually ran the numbers, and the likelihood of you running into a player that is actually good without skill-based matchmaking is basically lower than it is with skill-based matchmaking, but unless you are a protected bracket player, which is lower than like a 0.6, 0.4 KD, stuff like that. It's kind of goofy the way that all this works, because it really goes to show that none of the things that they're doing make any sense unless you consider in money. As soon as you consider in money and the way that it plays into you purchasing bundles and stuff like that, and the psychology behind this, because I promise you, Activision has brought in people that do psychology and learn about stuff like this and learn about the way that it affects how people think, how people purchase and stuff like that, so they can make more money. And that is the goal of everything, is more money. I think casual, ironically, is just kind of feeding backwards, and they're seeing that skill-based matchmaking actually does this, that, and the other thing. And I just think it's all super interesting and kind of funny that none of it makes sense unless you factor in money.
Matchmaking, the community often complains that they don't like the algorithm because it removes the variety in their games, the variety in their enemies.
That is actually my problem with skill-based matchmaking. Personally, I don't give a shit if I'm playing against the best players in the world as long as I get to fight some of the worst players in the world in the same match, because I don't want to constantly have every gunfight take 5 minutes and it does the same thing. You're just doing ring around the rosy the whole time. I hate that. I don't want a 5-minute gunfight. I want us to figure out our battle, fight it out, and be done. I've gotten to the point to where I will just move on. If you want to spend 5 minutes playing peekaboo, I'm gone. I'm out. I'm just so uninterested. I'll fight you later. We'll figure it out there. I'll take a different position. You'll take a different position. We'll figure it out. That is where I'm at. I don't give a shit if I have to fight good players or bad players. It just comes down to I want variety in who I'm fighting, because otherwise everything feels the exact same and it makes it pointless. Life is about variety, right? Like that's my big thing, is I love that every single day life changes. I'm one of those people where in my brain, I can't stand still. I'm not ADD. I'm saying I cannot feel like I'm stagnant in life. I have to continue to move forward. So that's why probably I don't like that there's a lack of variety with sometimes the way the skill-based matchmaking works. That's just me personally. I also would not want to play a bunch of bot players, and this proves it. I don't feel anything whenever I'm playing casual, just like I wouldn't feel anything whenever I was hopping into a game and fighting bad players all the time. That's just how I am. And casual mode proves that. I have no interest in playing casual at all.
Don't want to get stuck playing only in that bracket over and over again.
I don't know why this video just keeps chalking itself.
Because with the implementation of skill matching, gone were the days of some lobbies being easy and some being hard and some just being kind of normal. Whatever the game thinks your normal should be all the time. And I think that a good analogy can be made to battle royale games, because out of 150 players, you should have a mix of different skill levels. Ideally, you should have about a third of them be casual or below average in skill, bumbling around the map, learning the ropes, stuff like that. Another third of them should be normal, such that that's your average expectation for an engagement. And the last chunk of people are inevitably going to be more competitive, so you have a chance to roll up on some demons.
Yeah.
What this means for me as a player is that in any given match, I'm likely to be able to take down a casual team, coin toss on the normal team as my skills are challenged, and then near the end, if I live that long, I get the opportunity to face down some demons that are more powerful than me and see if I've learned anything, push myself a little bit. It's really fun. Since Verdansk is Battle Royale, some of that's inevitably going to be random. Sometimes you'll just land on a really sweaty squad and get annihilated. Other times you're the sweaty squad that landed on a player that's more casual than yourself, and the cycle kind of goes and goes around, but it does average out over many games to a more fun experience. What's kind of
just
happening—
to be clear, this is all incredibly valid. That was, like I said, Drifter's a very intelligent guy. He is very, very smart, and listening to him say stuff like that just like truly shows the intelligence that he has, because that is the way that it should be. That is the ideal situation. But the issue is whatever category you're in, you're gonna want to play the victim because you feel like you should win, even if you're dog shit at the game. This is what I was saying earlier, is because of the mentality and because of the psychology behind all of this, it makes skill-based matchmaking worth it whenever it comes to money. Because if you don't have skill-based matchmaking, eventually you're like, all right, this, I want to get better so that I'm not dying to stuff like this. And then you become that top player, and then you get a fight at this rate, which is what all he just said. If you're a decent player, you have a good time because you get a fight like this. If you're a low-skilled player, you're never going to get better with skill-based matchmaking. You don't get to experience that getting better unless you start watching like things like YouTube and stuff like that. Just like people that are, say, novices in like weightlifting, you know, you start watching somebody weightlift, you're like, oh, that's the technique you use and stuff like that. But before that, you just hop in and you'd run on a treadmill and you'd bench press, right? But then all of a sudden you watch somebody else a little bit better, and even though you were happy with what you were doing before, now you're like, oh, so if I change this up, I could do this. And you start getting that itch, and you want to scratch that itch. And that's where it starts feeling good. But then you get slapped right in the face by skill-based matchmaking because you get the exact same gunfight every single game. And then every once in a while, they're like, you know what though? Let me teach you about engagement optimized matchmaking. We actually don't give a shit about what skill you are. We're going to make it where when you're about to get offline, because we've memorized it, we're going to give you a game where it feels real good, exactly what you've been looking for, and then you're going to be hooked again, and then you're going to stay on, and then you're going to think, oh, I've spent enough time on this game. Maybe, just maybe, I can spend a little bit more money. Maybe I see this guy, he did really good. He had this bundle. Let me go buy that. Sorry, that's the whole point of it all. Basically, if you haven't figured that out. Anyway,
right now is that the experience is only fighting competitive players, like only really competitive players are still left in Verdansk. I also briefly wanted to talk about how this game has evolved, and very importantly, how it's lost its survival magic. In my humble opinion, Battle Royale games should reward the last person alive and not the one who has the most kills. Because the magic of these games isn't having a big map and lots of people to hunt down for a high score. The Battle Royale magic always worked best with a mix of hunting and survival. The survival element of the game is a little bit more like survival horror. As a lower skilled player, you're constantly avoiding the better players so they don't wipe you. You're being conservative with your resources because you're not going to be able to harvest a lot, sneaking everywhere, hoarding medicines, and just trying to rat your way into the final circle. But
that's actually my favorite way to play. I know a lot of people watch content and they expect people to get a lot of eliminations, but my favorite way to play, if you ever watch the videos where I go and I like play as a ghillie operator or something like that, I get so much more out of that than getting 30 kills. I think that that's so much better because you're outsmarting your enemy. I think that using your brain is way more fun than using your dexterity and your brawn. You know what I mean?
Really emotional, intense and difficult kind of process, and that's one of the things that made early PUBG so amazing early on. It was all sorts of gamers coming together of varying skill levels and experiences, and they're all trying these bizarre tactics. It was wild, wacky, unpredictable, and even casual gamers did have some degree of fun trying to survive. But as the streamers started landing at school over and over again and putting themselves through what is essentially a PUBG combat-oriented boot camp, the game suddenly lost its even playing field, and it lost its emphasis on survival and swapped over to who can get the most kills, and then PUBG got a lot more fun for me. This isn't unique to PUBG. Call of Duty Verdansk went through a very similar cycle, and then it was very new, and you know, these fond memories that I talk about when I'm playing it are with those casual players that were bumbling around a lot more. And typically, the older a Battle Royale game is, the more solved it is as a game and more oriented toward high kill games. That's a topic that's complex enough that I'm probably going to need to talk about it at a different time in a different video, but the older the Battle Royale game gets, it does tend to get more aggressive. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I think everybody at some point, and I mean everybody eventually gets to the point where it's like, you know what? I want to get in more engagements. Me sitting around scrolling on my phone isn't doing it for me. I want to get in a few more engagements. And I think that's one thing that actually is kind of hurting the players in casual mode, is because they're treating it like a sandbox instead of treating it like a battle royale. And all it is at the end of the game, they literally disconnect 30 bots. I don't know if you've noticed. Go in and play casual. And right before some of the last few circles, look at the left-hand side and look at the amount of players in the game. You'll see it go from 40 players to 5 players like that instantly. It is one of the most interesting things. But and we're going to do another spectating casuals and have a conversation about how it works and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing that it starts going towards more eliminations. I think that's just showing that people want to get a little bit more like competitive and better. And eventually, I think a lot of people will start to, as I say, want to scratch that itch, that competitive itch, because it won't do it for you in casual. So if anything, he's kind of proving himself wrong that it is killing the game, because like I said, it's about the long game here. You want to, and this is kind of why I respect the hell out of Raven Software for really coming up with this, is that you want to kind of build up the audience and let that audience naturally want to get a little bit more competitive. And I think they're doing an incredible job on that. Not to say that I'm trying to suck raw Call of Duty, but I really do think that was a really good play. And I think bringing in those casual players and letting them naturally start to get that itch for competition is going to be better for the game overall.
The main problem here is that the variety has been robbed from me and likely from many of you as well. But I do want to add some caveats to this criticism in order to maintain fairness. First, I'm so old, I literally remember seeing Reagan on TV and grew up with rotary phones. I'm also very out of practice because due to my disabilities, I can't grind Warzone for 4 hours a day like I used to. And then third, everybody else has had several years of practice and the meta has evolved to just be more aggressive. So coming back to Warzone does present a mismatch for me in that I'm much worse than I used to be. But on the flip side, my competition is also much better than they used to be. And unfortunately, I don't feel that I have the opportunity to practice or get better because I can play normals or ranked and mostly get smashed. I guess that is a sort of school of hard knocks, jump into the pit and figure it out, which I could do if I had time for it, which would be lovely. And there's some people in casual mode as well that are a bit more difficult to take down, but I don't find the casual mode experience to be that overall satisfying. It really should be satisfying. It should be perfect for a boomer gamer like myself who needs a bit more of a casual experience, but I'm mentally cursed in that killing bots just puts me to sleep. So what do? Well, I don't have a clear answer for this conundrum, but I did just want to point out that Warzone basically has voluntary skill-based matchmaking now. Normals is an entirely reasonable mode for people to use to practice their skills and warm up for ranked. Ranked is where all the sweat should be, and begrudgingly, I admit that the casual mode is still probably a good thing and a net positive for the game.
All right. Here's what I'll say. I think he's basically at the end of what he was going to say. And we're going to go into some of his comments and discuss everything at large. But what I will say is that Call of Duty doesn't need skill-based matchmaking the way that they have it, knowing that ranked mode exists. What they need is a proper anti-cheat. I don't know if we're all on the same page about that. They need a goddamn anti-cheat that works. Outside of that, casual mode exists so that you can fight bots and play incredibly casually. Right? That's what we've got. Next up, normal mode should not have skill-based matchmaking. It is a regular mode. It is still not a ranked mode. You do not get anything. Let me be clear. You do not get anything for playing against players that are better than you. Meaning that no matter how hard fought your game is, it doesn't matter. You don't rank up. You don't get any cool, skins or weapon camos or anything like that for winning against better players. So skill-based matchmaking is not something that should exist in that. So casuals, you play against bots. Normals, you play against just anybody. And then in ranked, you fight people of your own skill level. That is how games like this should work, because then it makes sure that everybody's getting a match fast no matter what they're in, unless they're in ranked where it's trying to literally put together a conglomerate of all the same skill level players. So that would be the ideal situation. That would be, I think, what would fix this conundrum that Drifter has found himself in, and I think it would make it more fun for people like him. The issue is stuff like that will make less money because at the end of the day, it's all a game of psychology and the way that people think. And the way that people are mostly not self-aware enough to recognize that they're bad at the game and they want to just believe that they're the best in the business. And that's okay. I'm going to have a lot of people in the comments of this video, and I want to say I respect the hell out of you for being able to recognize that you are dog shit at Call of Duty. It's a game, bro. It doesn't matter if you're bad at the game. It's just a game, right? At the end of the day, that's kind of what it comes down to. But I did want to check out some of the comments on his video right here. Warzone casual is ruining normals. Again, I would say at the end of the day, that's false. I don't think it's really affecting normals in any capacity. I think Drifter, frankly, brother, you just got worse. But you never feel anything from fighting bots. You even said that about campaigns, is that you don't feel that way with bots. So I don't think it's ruining normals. I just think that if anything, they're hoping for the long game here, and they did a really good thing, and that's why we're getting it. We're getting Resurgence casuals as well for Rebirth. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out some of these comments. First off, we've got our pause text. To be honest, regular BR had already become hard mode before casual mode even arrived. Extreme Stretch created this situation. Regular people couldn't compete and they quit. They came back for Verdansk and quickly discovered casual mode. I'm one of them. It's the only fun mode. We didn't take players away from normal mode. If not for casual, we wouldn't be, and it doesn't let me see any more than that. Why is it being weird? Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Got it. To be honest, sorry. If not for casual, we wouldn't be playing at all. And again, I think this guy sadly, and this is kind of one of those things where it's just recognizing something. Extreme Sweats created the situation. Extreme Sweats create 2% of the population. Those 2% of the population will eliminate you about probably 5% of the time. You're dying to players that are just a little bit better than you 90% of the time. And you get upset only whenever you have to fight people that are way better than you. And to say that you're quitting because of that is wildly ignorant. And I'm not trying to discount your experience. I'm just trying to explain that the numbers don't agree with what you're saying. Your experience is what your experience is. And again, it is what it is. But I would like to push you to recognize your actual, like, pay attention to every death, every single death. I want you to look at every single death. Stop looking at how long they've played. Don't look at their level. I want you to watch them and see how they play for the rest of the match. From now on, when you die, our pause text, I want you to literally watch the player that eliminates you for the rest of the match. And I want you to decide if they're actually a sweat. Go play a regular BR, and I want you to decide if they're actually a sweat. Look at them and then compare it to whatever YouTuber you want. I want you to see the difference between their gameplay style and someone that plays it like as a sweat. Because I promise you, 92% of the time, or something ridiculously high, you are just dying to someone that's slightly better than you. Trust me, it happens to me all the time. I just died to somebody that outplayed me. It comes down to that. Most of the time, it's actually your own mistakes, to be quite honest, because that's what Battle Royale is all about, is taking advantage of your enemy's mistakes. You hear your enemy doing something stupid, like, oh, they played it up really close to you whenever they got shot when they shouldn't have. They should have rechowed. You push that, you get the elimination. They died because of their own mistake, their own miscalculation, because they failed. Like, that's how it comes down to. And I bet that's what you do, and I bet that's exactly what I do. That's what every player does. That's okay. But to blame it on Extreme Sweats whenever that's 2% of the player base that's barely eliminating you ever just is a little goofy. Bat Dad, I think you nailed it at the end when you said casual player just doesn't care. I assure you we don't. Absolutely. That is exactly what I'm saying, is the casual player, for the most part, this is probably that 1% of the people that actually watch that actually are casual. They just don't care. They hop on. It doesn't really matter to them. They're just playing the game. Dylan said, as a casual, there's no such thing as a casual experience anymore unless it's with your buddies in a PvE game or solo in a PvE game in general. Yeah, 100%. Streaming, esports, and the concept of metas has convinced me that PvP just isn't casual anymore unless it's for a very small period of time in the casual playlist. 100%. Before Sweat's bringing in the triad of what I mentioned earlier into that playlist. Again, it's such a small percentage of the player base. I think everyone that is above the super casual, and that is, 40% of the player base, they're going to be watching YouTube videos and they're going to want to get better. These are random numbers, by the way. I'm just saying it's a larger chunk than a smaller chunk. Don't fucking look at my percentages and be like, fucking saying this percentage, bro? I ran the numbers, bitch. No, I'm just saying a very large chunk of the player base is probably just watching some YouTube videos and they're like, oh, I can do that. Let me do that. You know what I mean? I don't think it is really anything more than, yes, streaming, esports, and the concept of metas has convinced me that PvP just isn't casual. I don't think it comes down to just that 2% of players that are truly sweaty. I think it comes to that 40% of players, or whatever the hell you want to call it, that are just wanting to get a little better. That's really what it is that everybody wanting to get a little bit better instead of just playing at home and being able to watch people. All right, realistically, what it comes down to is being able to watch people that'll literally spoon feed you how to improve. There's a billion coaches. I mean, for example, go watch Burger. Dude's an incredible coach. This man can walk you through it. If you were a baby that had just come fresh out of the womb, he could teach you how to play Call of Duty better than most casuals. Like that. This baby could be 4 days old and he's going to pull it off. And it's because he's an incredible coach and he knows how to explain things to people in a way that they can understand it. And so I think what it comes down to is that anybody can just look up a YouTube video and get a little bit better by just learning something. And all it is just applying yourself a little bit. You don't even have to apply yourself fully. Like, you can get better if you have an hour a day. That's the truth of it. Daniel Yusuf said, shooters in general have gotten insanely sweaty thanks to streamers and esports. Again, and I'm not trying to take away from the fact that streamers are sweaty. They absolutely are. And I think at a certain amount, they do fuck some stuff up, just to be very clear. But on the other side of it, to say that it's because of streamers and esports is a little goofy. I think there's a lot more mindset that goes into it. Everybody wants to improve just a little bit over time. And that existed long before this day and age. You know, there were people that wanted to get better at video games and at sports and stuff like that way before YouTube existed and before Twitch existed. So to constantly blame it on streamers and esports is just such a, frankly, it's a stupid ass thing to do. I think obviously it's glorified and there's a lot of kids that are getting into it, but that's a whole different situation. I don't think like shooters have gotten insanely sweaty because of that. I just think that people naturally, as things mature, will want to get better at those things. It would have happened whether or not streaming existed. I just think maybe the speed at which it happened was faster than you would have seen in the past. And that's just a big thing with social media. That's a big thing with the internet. We are going to constantly see that for the future with everything. Everything's going to happen so much faster. Forever. And it's not going to come down to one tiny group of people. It's going to come down to everyone being smarter, being able to reach information like that. And like, that's the reality of it. I wouldn't play this game whatsoever if this mode didn't exist. If this mode is tweaked in any way, I'll be gone. I've heard that a few times. They have already tweaked it, but I think you will never recognize it. And I'll have a conversation about that in the future in a video where we spectate casual again. But for now, I'll tell you, it has changed a little bit already, and you just don't recognize it because you're never going to recognize it. I like casual mode because I have a real job and just can't play games all day. It's just a game. It's supposed to be fun. Absolutely. I think this is exactly who the game is for. Somebody that hops on for an hour and a half a day, want to play with their boys. Hey, let's hop in. Let's have some conversations. Let's shoot some bots. And then maybe at the end, lock it in for a little bit. You know, I think that's why the mode is so good. God forbid the casuals can have a game mode that they can enjoy without the sweats taking it over, just like Plunder. Meh. I think it's, look, I played Plunder a lot in Urzikstan. I played Plunder and it was a great way to level up weapons. And Lord have mercy, to say that Plunder was sweaty is so goofy, because I promise you, every time I'd hop into Plunder, it was like these guys were walking around banging their head against the wall the whole time. And this isn't me talking shit. This is me literally saying that that is sweaty is a little goofy. I'm not saying there's not sweaty players that are in it. I played it to level up weapons, right? I do the same thing with casuals. I'll do my best not to fight real players whenever I do that. I know a lot of people get upset about that. Trust me, I'm not actively going into the mode and trying to fight real players. I'm getting a bounty and I'm paying attention to the name and seeing if it looks like a bot name. If they have a clan tag immediately out the window, I'm not going to try and fight that. But for the most part, unless I'm playing with a group of people that need to win the game, like if I'm doing a random teammate video or something like that, I will not in any capacity fight real players. I try and dodge them for the most part. So that's just the reality of it. Or I'll even mention it in the videos, be like, oh crap, that was a real player. I don't want to ruin somebody's experience because I'm way better than them. Like, that's just how I am. But man, honestly sounds like you have the same issue as those playing casual. You're just in the bracket above. What? This sounds pretty close to casual took all of the noobs for me to beat up on. This doesn't seem like you thought it out, to be honest. I think again, this is like, I hear that, but I think Drifter went out of his way to be very clear about what he expected. I don't want to constantly have the same gunfights every single game. I want to have a variety of gunfights. So, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have said 100%, which is I think people are going to get hung up on that. But it's a little goofy to say, oh, they took this so I could beat up on it. This is the fucking, this is the victim mentality shit that fucking pisses me off so bad. Like, oh, you just wanted to beat up on guys that are worse than you. It's like, no, that actually he went out of his way to say the exact opposite. If you listen for a single fucking second, you would know that he said something completely different. And if you want to believe whatever you want, that's fine, but don't fucking point at him and be like, you said this, bitch. Like, no, he did not say that. He said the exact opposite. He said he wants a variety of gunfights. His mistake was saying that 100% of the players was gone. And then people could take that and run with it, which is an issue. But in reality, he said he wants 30% of this, 30% of this, 30% of this, you know? And then you get that like 10% of like, oh, they're really, really good players. I like that is what it came down to. He did not say this. And 46 people just didn't listen. Hal Emmerich said it's more or less washed up content creator whines that normal people don't play Warzone and won't be worm food for him and his butt. This is exactly what I'm saying. Like, this is the issue. This is like, oh, like, oh my God. This victim mentality is the grossest shit that reached like this day and age. Like, everybody wants to feel like a victim. Oh my God. Honestly, Drifter is usually a bit more self-aware. That's what I was saying, is I think he's very intelligent. I just think that he feels a specific way about the bots. I don't think it's that he's not self-aware. I just think that he recognizes one thing, but he's having a bit of an issue recognizing the other side. I'd rather die 10 times to a real player than shoot bots, but I don't want to play real players because I lose. That's a fair point. That's kind of a struggle to understand. I hear this. I think the big thing is that he still wants the variety of players. I will say, naming the video what he named it about killing BR regular is kind of goofy. Basically, he says skill-based matchmaking is too strict and sweaty, but in this video says there's no way for him to practice because he's too good for casual and too bad for ranked. Strict skill-based matchmaking will always place you with people around your skill level, and he's even made videos saying that. So if you want fair competition at his level of skill, whoa, God bless. Okay, skill-based matchmaking is not what Call of Duty uses. It is a part, skill is a part of the matchmaking system, but their whole matchmaking is not based on that. It's based on engagement. So at the end of the day, there will be times where it feeds you those easier matches, but it's so few and far between where you don't get the opportunity to do. Dude, poor Drifter has shot himself in the foot by saying specific things and not recognize that engagement is the main matchmaking. Like, that's the point of the algorithm, is the engagement is there. So him saying that skill-based matchmaking always places you with people at your skill level is super ignorant, because you're not recognizing the reality of Warzone. Yes, you will run into people that are better players, and I wish we could see that overall in the API, but this is incorrect. This right here is 100% incorrect. Skill-based matchmaking does not always place you with people of your skill level. That is not how that works. This only exists in ranked, and even in ranked, it's not perfect. Starscream, I have zero empathy. Sweats ruin multiplayer games. Again, you're upset about such a small part of the population that it makes no sense percentage-wise. It's just your perception. Your personal perception is what's ruining the game for you, not Sweats overall. I'm not saying Sweats don't do bad things, like for the casual player. But I am saying it's more about your perception, not about what they've done to you, because realistically, it's such a small percentage, it doesn't make sense. Normal Warzone has been sweaty for a few years now. Casual didn't do anything to it, but let the players that want to chill with friends have somewhere to do that. It sounds more like a you problem. I agree with this. Does sound like a Drifter problem. 532 out of context. That was the part where he said that he likes to eliminate real players and hunt down real players. You should change this out of the video. The Drifter has a Warzone problem. I agree. I'm sweaty, and when my dad plays with me in pubs, he gets instantly deleted. But when we play casual playlists, he can have fun and get kills. This is the one thing that I think is incredibly important. This is a very good one right here. And I want everybody to pay attention to this and shut the fuck up about whether or not a good player or a bad player is in your lobby, because you have no idea what's actually going on in their party. And it is disgusting for people to constantly get upset that they want to play with their friends that are worse, and they play casuals and they get to carry their teammates. That's the whole idea, is that everybody gets to have fun because of that. Anyway, yes, it's a skill issue, but he works full time. I really do enjoy this game mode because it's enabled me and my dad to both play and have fun together. I think it's pretty important because my dad doesn't have the time to invest to get good at the game, whereas we only play when he has spare time. Yeah, that is very, very true. That is very, very true. I respect the hell out of this. This is probably the best comment on the page, and a lot of people are gonna not realize how good that comment is because they lack so much self-awareness. Streamers and meta YouTubers are the worst thing to happen in gaming. They stripped all the fun out of the game and made it hyper-competitive sweat fest. I think it comes down to money, obviously. I mean, everybody wants the money. Sucks, but the videos that do well, actually, blame yourself. Right? Hear me out. Supply and demand, right? A lot of people want to say, oh, this exists because, the demand of it. That is the same thing whenever it comes to Call of Duty. you do recognize that meta videos make up like 90% of the content for Warzone, and they constantly get a ton of views from everybody. This is not all sweaty players looking up the meta. This is every player looking up the meta. So saying that it's their fault because they recognize that the audience wanted to watch this makes pretty much no sense. It's like, how dare you make a video that people want? What? How dare you do that? It's like, it's just supply and demand at the end of the day. I'm not saying there's not better ways to do it, and I think a lot of them will do some things that are a little goofy, but I do think it's weird to say, how dare they do this, whenever in reality, you're the one watching it. You're actively watching a YouTube video right now. You are. You. Sorry. We're going to do just a couple more of these. The YouTubeification has been simultaneously the best and worst thing to happen to gaming. On one hand, you've got great entertainment and a brand new emerging media industry. And on the other, you've got being called a slur as a 5-year-old builds a castle over your head in seconds and one-shots you. This is the story of my life. All right. Glad casuals rallied to casual mode. Keep unemployed sweats in normal mode. Guys, I just wish, and this is just too much to ask, but I just really hope that at some point people can just recognize that there's more to it than we have to segregate audiences. We have to segregate players and stuff like that. I don't know if y'all have ever thought about this, but when was segregation a good thing? I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it, like, this might be a little existential, but when the fuck was segregation a good thing? That's all I'm saying. At any point, being a melting pot is a little bit better. Just a little bit better, right? So I don't know why we have to treat it like such a negative thing that people play together, or that maybe a sweaty player wants to play with their friend that's a little bit worse. I do think it's a little weird, don't get me wrong, when people are like, I want to shoot bad players and feel good about myself. I want to do this content, and like, I think that's a little bit weird, don't get me wrong. But to really take away an opportunity because like the minority is hurting the majority just doesn't make sense. I think there's ways to just deal at some point. Like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough. I hear people. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not recognizing what people are saying, but I also don't want folks to just not be able to recognize what they're saying, like what they're actually saying, and thinking about what's actually happening in their games. Like I said to that guy earlier, I implore you to go out of your way, and from now on, when you die, if you're one of those people that just bitch about sweats all the time, I want you to take a second, and after you die, for the rest of your games, I want you to watch who kills you for the rest of the match. Every single time. Now, I'm not talking about one time when you're like, oh, that guy was good, let me watch him. I'm saying every single time. I want you to watch them, and I want you to compare it to, I don't know, Joe or something like that. I want you to compare it to those people. And then you get to decide, was that guy actually sweaty, or did he just outsmart me in that moment? Because I promise, 9 times out of 10, you just died to a regular ass player. So, end over end, all at the end of the day, I would say casual mode's fine, dude. Casual mode's in a fine place. Is it killing BR? Absolutely not. It's doing the exact opposite. It's reviving the mode for a lot of people. It's making the mode more fun. It's the reason that Fortnite added in bots and the game got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think it's a fine thing to do. I don't see any reason to be upset about it. I just think that hopefully people can even out with this. Call of Duty is the player base that likes to bitch about everything. So whatever. But either way, I hope you all have an incredible remainder of your day. I hope this conversation has been helpful in some sort of way. And of course, leave your comments down below. Maybe, listen to, there's going to be people that didn't listen to the whole video. They're going to take something out of context from the video and they're going to leave a comment about it. It happens every single video. Don't interact with those people. They really don't deserve the interaction, because taking something out of context is incredibly dumb and it's their fault. But have an incredible remainder of your day. I love you. Thank you. Goodbye.